Okay. Okay, beautiful. Okay. By the way, I'm looking for an intern. Not an intern, that's not the word, excuse me. I'm looking for someone who has a strong background in Torah and learning, and who has strong technology skills, which I'm completely inept at, because there's so much content that I want to create workbooks that will have forever. As we spoke about it, and you sent me some pamphlets and so on, sizes, and for this ladies class, for example, this Mesilat Yesharim class, it's turning into a life class. It's Mesilat Yesharim and Harambam and this and that and that and that. So if anybody knows of a young adult, I spread the word here with a few of the Kollel guys. If anybody knows of a young adult who has 3-4 hours a week and wants to do this kind of thing, let me know. Okay. Okay, so I want to spend the next handful of our learning times focused on Pesach. And as we've done, God willing, with most things, we're going to take Pesach from the level of that it's often embraced or experienced. We want to bring it to a different level. And what the plan is to start with what is Pesach, right? What is it? I.e., what are the giant messages and what's essentially built into it for our benefit? Where does it come from? Where does it end up? And the ultimate sense. And then what we're going to do, once we have that big blown up vision, God willing, which I think is really maybe two classes, then what we do is we're going to go into the Haggadah, again, on a different level, God willing, and we're going to see how that all fits in to the master plan that's articulated in Pesach. Okay? So the first premise of all of this is that there's a direct connection, absolutely direct connection to the Geulah of Egypt, of Mitzrayim, and the ultimate Geulah, right? We said that when we started learning the book of Shemot, that the book of Shemot is not a description only of what was, it's a description of what was and what will be, okay? Pesach is the microcosm of all of that, where it all gets squished together to a point where we're shown a very bright light on the future Geulah that will happen. Okay, so that's how we want to understand it. Good. So we say that one of the elements of that, and we're going to talk about it from a few different sides, that in Yetziat Mitzrayim, we, the Jewish people, began the process of our self-actualization, of our self-definition and identity, but the world hadn't yet started that. So from a Hakadosh Baruch Hu point of view, we started earlier as the Am Nivchar, and what has to happen over time is our growth and development inspires everybody else's growth and development. So when we start the perspective, we start by saying that Yetziat Mitzrayim was a major step forward in our Shlemut, in our completion, perfection. When we say Yetziat Mitzrayim, of course, we're talking about Ma'amad Har Sinai and the Aseret HaDibrot and Kriyat Yam Suf, and all of that was included in it. But we hold that the world around us didn't have the experience we had. And even if they saw it, as the Egyptians did, on whatever level they saw, whatever they saw, which obviously wasn't all that we did, they were far behind us. And we have an opportunity and a responsibility as we grow to spread that out and to enable growth all over. So the Geulah of Yetziat Mitzrayim is more individual to our people. And the ultimate Geulah, the ultimate redemption, the time of Mashiach is more universal. Okay? Parochial, local, universal. But other than that, not other than that, with that in mind, they mirror each other.
You mean public? When you say universal, it's more public? It's more of a universal awareness?
It's for all the nations, all the people of the world, Jewish and otherwise. Everybody.
They're redeemed as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
The world is transformed in this process. We have a huge responsibility in that transformation. But ultimately, what we're talking about in the ultimate Geulah is the shlemut of all of Enoshut, of all of humankind.
Does that mean that we're not separate as Jews anymore, and that
We're
everybody's
absolutely separate. No question that we're separate, but everybody's on a higher level.
Wow.
Everybody's on a much higher level.
right?
And that's why everything we do is always under the microscope.
Right.
Always.
Well, no, but this is a different thing. This is together. This is going in with everybody.
Right, but point being like this, the only way we inspire people is by being exemplary. That's the only way.
Right.
The only way we impact the world around us is by being exemplary. And that's why a Kiddush Hashem overrides everything.
Sure.
And God forbid the opposite overrides everything.
Sure.
Because the ultimate purpose of all of the creation that we are is impacted by our action.
Right.
Okay?
A light unto the world. A light unto the world is the most
That's right.
important thing.
That's right. And when we attempt to do things, as we've spoken about in our tefillah learning, when we attempt to do things like blur the lines, like give up our identity, like give away who we are, the system becomes unhinged, and it becomes convulsed and angry, and then we have different things go on, and any attempts, intentional or otherwise, to end the uniqueness, the unique identity of the Jewish people will never be met with good, because it's essential that we maintain our unique identity in order for this process to continue. Everybody benefits if Jews marry Jews and Jews stay connected to Jews, and so on. Everybody benefits. Nobody benefits when there's high levels of intermarriage or whatever it might be.
But it should be universally understood and clear that that is the best thing for everybody. It shouldn't be where people don't get it and think that we're being isolated, or we're isolating ourselves from the rest of the world.
Listen,
right?
People, we've seen it throughout history that when people attack us and hate us, when we make a deliberate effort to become like them, that's when they hate us. And we've stayed in our little enclaves. We've done just fine.
Right.
So whenever we try to come out and look and act and dress and talk and walk like the other guy, by the way, why do you think people hold on to the way they dressed 150 years ago in Eastern Europe? Why?
Right.
Why? Because it's just another way for them to claim their identity. And by the way, it has great value. It really,
sure
I didn't, over the years, I had a hard time understanding it. And now I understand it and I value it.
Right.
Yes, we are absolutely separate. We are an Am Nivdal. We are Am Segula. We are.
But there's a better way than we've been doing it. There's a better way I'm not saying to assimilate, but there's a better way to have it where everybody's happy about it. It's not whatever it is.
Hey, hi, how are you? How are you,
I'm
Mark?
good. How are you, Rabbi?
Hi, I didn't see you good.
I know you.
Hi.
I don't look the same. Stacy, how are
Okay.
you?
Good, nice to see you. Join our class. Join our class. We have
I'd
the
love to.
the class takes place in all venues, whatever venue you got, in the Uris, in Home Depot, wherever you are.
And Nahum. Oh my gosh, I would love to be. I was just telling you, how many 20 years ago I was in your class.
That's right. Was it?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Great.
I'm so happy to see you. Have to kick.
All
Yes,
the best.
give me
Nice
the link.
to see you.
Okay. Shabbat shalom.
Great. That's great.
So, Zeke, to your point, well, we have to stay separate.
But there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to do separate than we've been doing, and that's going to bring out the Geulah. That's it.
I'll tell you the better way is A, we are absolutely separate. B, we are absolutely involved. We could
Right.
be separate and involved. As long as we don't cross the line, then we're doing great and they're doing great.
Right.
But when we cross the line and we try to become like them, and
That's
everybody
where our
tries to become
integrity.
like
That's where our
everybody,
integrity breaks, and that's where that comes. Then you're dead. It's over. Right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we will be dispersed within the nations of the world by design. And we're going to talk about some of the sources in a few minutes. We will be dispersed among the nations of the world by design, because as a result of that, we're going to help the world grow to this high level. And how will we do that? From our actions. We should become, as you said, a light unto the nations. Okay. So at the end of this process goes in the following order. We on one track, the main track, we're refining ourselves and growing ourselves. We'll talk about how in a few minutes, to become Mamlechet Kohanim and Goy Kadosh. We have to talk about what that means. The next step will be, after a process of us growing and growing, the next step will be that the world will recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we grow to a certain point. We really become a model people and a model society, right? And based on that, people start to scratch their heads and say, well, you know what? These guys got something right. What is it about? And then based on that, we have this tikkun klali. We have this overall improvement of all of mankind, ultimately reaching a level where the Jewish people are recognized with a home in Jerusalem and a Beit HaMikdash, and all of the world, it recognizes HaKadosh Baruch Hu and is worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu on their levels. Okay. So how does the system start? Remember, it starts with us and it ends with everybody. Okay, we're okay so far? How does the system start? The launch for this is, and let's own some of these terms, emunah mevusas al hanes. What does that mean? Emunah mevusas al hanes. What is emunah? Emunah is belief, right? Belief. That's based on what, Abe? What's the word mevusas? Based on what?
It's foundation.
Excellent. So the emunah's foundation is what? Is a miracle, right?
Right.
Miracle.
Yeah.
Is the nest, right? So what does that mean? And give me an example. This journey to bring the Jewish people to their highest level and ultimately bring all of mankind to its highest level starts with miracles. So what? Yeah, Zeke, what does that mean?
Is it Al Hanes? I'm sorry. Was it Al Hanes? Emunah memusas.
Al Nisim, right? Al Nes.
Right. So on the right.
On miracles, right?
Right.
So what does that mean?
That's where its foundation is on the miracle. That's
Right.
like the kernel of that's the faith that you have to, that meaning actually it's not requiring faith from us. It's saying that it's on the miracle, on the shock and awe. That's where the faith comes from.
Beautiful. That's how the faith is kicked off.
Right.
That's how it's kicked off. Okay. So beautifully said. So the shock and awe gets us this illogical,
right.
based belief. It's illogical. It hasn't been reasoned. It hasn't been thought through, right? It
Right.
gives us this illogical based belief in God, right?
Mhm.
So what's the limitation of this stage, which is the earliest stage? What's the limitation?
The limitation is the further away you get from that shock and awe, the less faith you may have, right?
Beautiful, super, which is what happens in the desert over and again.
Right.
So
Right.
what is it? What is the process? It starts with shock and awe, which yields faith. And then where do we go from there?
And then when we go from there, we fall away. We're right. We get it.
But we're gonna fall, come back, fall, come back. But what's the next step in the process of building us?
Then there's further. Then we take it further. Then it grows, right? It magnifies.
How do we grow it? How do we grow beyond the shock and awe?
Torah,
Beautiful.
right?
So by refinement, by personal growth, the shock and awe dissipates, and the emunah turns into yeda.
Right.
So
So
the
it's
shock
firm.
and awe.
It's firm belief in knowledge, and it's right, substantiated by your knowledge.
Belief turns into knowledge.
Right.
Belief turns into knowledge, and the knowledge is based on yeda, on a relationship with God that comes from real life experiences, higher one, real life growth,
Morning.
real life learning. Morning. Good?
Good.
So who's that?
Somebody's talking. You're on mute.
You're on mute. Izzy, you're on mute, honey. We can't hear you. Izzy, you're on mute.
We didn't hear him. Yeah. Okay. He doesn't know.
Sorry. It's a little loud. I'll talk to you after. I'll talk to you
Okay.
after.
Okay. Okay. So this process of the building, Erwin, what we're talking about, we're going to talk about the big picture of Pesach on several levels, on the mystical level, on the cosmic level, on the practical level, right? Then we're going to talk about those things as they relate to what we actually read in the Haggadah. So we'll come to understand that we're not reading a listing of disparate pieces that don't seem to connect one to the other. We're going to understand the backdrop of what Pesach is, which is the Geulah, the redemption that was, and the redemption that will be.
Rabbi, I compare a lot. They don't do this anymore. I don't know why. What happened to bowls of rubber bands? But if you remember, people used to make a bowl of rubber bands, right? They would snap them around and it would become this perfect sphere made out of rubber bands. But it starts, what they don't tell you, with a little piece of tinfoil. You can't start the bowl of rubber bands to catch onto one another without that little bowl of tinfoil in the middle. And that's the way I always see, emunah or faith or all of it. It's got to start with something.
Beautiful.
Introduced.
Beautiful. Love the analogy. I love it.
Yeah.
By the way, these analogies and images that you give us, I use them a zillion times over, so don't hesitate. So, Erwin, you with us? We
I'm
start
here.
with shock and awe, right? We start with nisim, miracles that yield emunah. Nisim, miracles, irrational, unnatural things that happen, like the 10 plagues, the splitting the sea, whatever, that yield emunah. Emunah is belief. This is very banal. This is very, very simple, right? Okay. And then we start with that. We start a process to have real growth through knowledge that takes the emunah to da'at, the belief to knowledge, from believing in God to knowing there's God, from having this distant, hard to explain relationship with God to having a very, very intimate, each person, personal relationship with God. As we do that, as it goes from the shock and awe, as Zeke said, to something very palpable, very rational, very explainable. It has less sizzle, but it's much more substantive, and it gives me a knowledge of God rather than a belief in God. So we're moving from belief to knowledge. Yeah.
Isn't it a little bit fragile, all of it, because the foundation is on this, on Al Hanes, which would mean that if there were some other miracle, it could sway you a different direction, even no matter what, right? It could undo it all, right?
Beautiful.
And
Absolutely.
so, and convince everybody otherwise somehow.
Absolutely right. That's correct.
So that's
Correct.
scary. That's a little scary, or it's a
But
little,
that's why we have rules about false prophets.
right?
Right. That's right. That's
But
right.
it just goes to show that it's always this close to unraveling, in a sense,
That's right.
right?
That's right. Yeah. Erwin?
But what is
No,
not? What is not, Zeke?
What's that? What do you mean?
What is not close to this ravel? We found out 2 years ago that
Everything is. No, I'm saying
democracy was 1 minute away from
it's always right. We're always there, right? So it's saying, it's just recognizing that as we're talking about it, it's just making the recognition that everything is that way, but this is how this one is, right? Right.
That's
This
right.
is how this one is, right?
Right. No, so my thought was that you could see why that people stray, because everybody's selling the same deal. Meaning
Right.
every religion or cult or this or belief or, everyone's selling that miraculous thing, come with me and,
Right. Exactly right.
Right. So now we have to be able to have that belief that we obviously do, that Judaism, Torah, Hashem is our deal, and don't even look left or right and buy into the other things, because they can have a lot of sex appeal and sell you.
And that's why we have to protect it. But that's the other thing, is that
But I'm
you
telling you,
have
how
a
do you
lot of
protect
people
it?
who want to protect it for that reason.
Right. What you're
There's
saying
so
is
many
100%.
reasons that
Yeah.
these things can validate also, Erwin, meaning, people can't learn Kabbalah to a certain age. We've heard so many reasons, and a lot of it's because they're just not sure, right? You don't have
Right.
true emunah. They're not ready for it. I studied a lot of different religions, as have you, but it used to be something that swayed me, but now it's something that enforces.
Right.
Right. You were fortunate to buy into the plan, right? No,
That's-
no, but the truth of the matter, you can cherry pick other cultures but you could see at the end of the day, so much of it is a blueprint of our religion. That's what solidifies and sells me,
Great. So it's
I
already
haven't found
working.
any religion that's actually had a broad appeal that was not centered in
exactly,
ours.
right.
Ricky, I'm thinking a lot of
we
Rabbi
won't.
Ben Moseg, Ben
we won't.
Moseg, Rabbi Haham Ben Moseg. That's a lot of this comes into that, with it tying together all of the universal truths,
But that's exactly the point. That's
Right.
exactly our job.
Right.
Our job
Right.
was to give birth to other religions
Yeah.
for a period of time in human development until people move past those religions to, they don't have to be Jewish. Nobody, that's not what the blueprint details, but everybody will have an absolute acceptance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So now, we start with this shock and awe belief. We move from shock and awe belief to intellect-based commitment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how does that come? To Erwin's point, with learning, with intellectual growth. So the shock and awe, which is overwhelmingly emotional, is the start-off point. It's fits and starts, and it's not great. And then from that point on, immediately after we got out of Egypt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah immediately, because we need the Torah to build the real relationship. It's the intellect and knowledge. We are tethered to knowledge. Knowledge is our oxygen. Learning is our oxygen. There's no other way.
But also, the shock and awe disqualifies those who witness it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. You fell in love.
crazy.
You fell in love. Now, once you fall in love, right? Now there's got to be something.
No, we were
Right.
charmed, right? That's really being charmed. It's
That's being charmed. Beautifully put.
right,
That is being charmed. That's right. Excellent.
right. And those guys are disqualified automatically because they didn't come in on their own, right?
Who's disqualified?
The people who are charmed.
No, that's how we all got in.
Well,
What do you
no,
mean?
they get killed off in the desert, right? Because they're
No.
not.
One second. Not everybody got killed off in the desert.
Most.
Not everybody. The men did, the women did not.
Okay.
Okay.
What's that?
And,
Women and children are off limits. That's the Godfather.
I'm sorry.
Women and children are off limits. That's the Godfather.
Now, look,
I'm joking, I'm joking.
yeah. the reality is that it's a difficult process.
Right.
And it's a process. So how do we move the process to the next step? With knowledge. Nothing will replace that. Good. And then what? So we move from faith based on pele, based on wonder, to knowledge based on an intimate and more intimate relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through his words, getting into his mind, so to speak. So the belief goes to knowledge. The relationship then becomes that much more serious. And then, Chacham Zik, what happens after that?
Then the knowledge kicks in and it grows, it magnifies.
Beautiful. And what happens?
We flourish. And
How?
Mashiach comes, the Geulah comes.
How do we flourish?
We become a light unto the world.
And what?
Hopefully.
Good. And what happens to the person, to the individual? The individual went from belief to knowledge, and now where does he go?
To
Next step, and this is going back to where things started, is he starts to disconnect from a physical focus, a physical obsession, a physical want, and he begins to sort of decouple himself just a little bit and become much more intellectual and spiritual in essence.
You're talking about a transformation.
Yeah, so I'm talking about step 3 in the transformation, and this happens collectively and it happens individually, where the third step of the transformation is the person who was very steeped in the physical, for example, is over the shock and awe, has spent some real time in the intimate connection through the immersion of knowledge. Now he starts to look less at the physical and look mostly to the intellectual and spiritual. So a person, to Erwin's lifestyle, would rather do what he does than do what a lot of other people do, which is spend his day reading a 600-page book than going someplace else, right? Because the neshama is being refined and uplifted, right? And it's being removed from the garishness of the practical to pine and to want the intellectual. Good?
Right.
You with me? So that's step 3. Yeah, that's step 3. And step 4, in general terms, is that the physical will be literally downgraded. And so as a result of individuals downgrading their physical needs and interests, there'll be a groundswell of it. It'll become collective, primarily through the Jewish people. And then the world order will change, whether cosmically, metaphysically, or practically. On a practical level, everybody's going to want to be doing what Erwin does. That's going to be where people want to be.
I already want to do what Erwin does.
So you're moving. You're moving
That's
on
it.
the curve. You're doing
That's
great.
it. He's got me. You had me at hello, Erwin.
Right, how are you? Now, you wanted something, but I wanted to tell you something. So Ricky always I appreciate the kind words, but the reading part of my life was triggered by a man over 40, 50 years ago. Really, like you say, you find a rabbi, you
Right.
find a friend, you find this. It takes that one person to really ignite you. And he's the guy that taught me, Erwin, you have to understand, you have to read, you have to know everything on the planet.
That's great.
And then I was lucky to find a rabbi that took me that way and a businessman to bring me that
Who was
way.
the man? You want to tell us?
You wouldn't know the guy. His name was Bernie Goldstein.
Okay, so Bernie Goldstein, God bless him.
He was a Wall Street guy. He was like either a Harvard or Wharton guy. I immediately attached to him through a connection when I was a kid. And he held my hand for 2-3 years. He took me to Wall Street. He showed me around. He made me go to Wall Street and take 2 years of courses on M&A and tech analysis, investment. And I was like, I freaked out my mind. I said, I have to learn everything on earth.
That's great.
But it's the same thing with a rabbi. When I met my rabbi named 30 years ago, he was the guy that flipped me out. He said, Erwin,
Right.
you have a clue with your thirst for knowledge. This is there's more here than you could ever do in 10 lifetimes.
How fantastic is that?
Beauty.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled to know that he flipped you out. Nobody probably ever said that about him.
He totally flipped me out till today. Yeah, till today. Yeah.
The Irwinism's another Irwinism. So that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want to move beyond the physical to an overwhelmingly intellectual plane, right? That's that next step where we're spending most of our time having a great time in that world, right?
Right.
Now, so what ends up happening then? We move into this time of Mashiach and we say something fascinating. We say that in this time of Mashiach, Adam Harishon, Adam, comes back without any of the baggage of the past and helps fuel this process of a separation or more of a separation from the physical, although we still live in a physical world, and a greater immersion in the intellectual spiritual, because Adam was the one who was crafted that way when he started, and he's coming back without any of the baggage, because we, humanity, removed the baggage for him. There ain't no more baggage because we worked it through. We got past it. So because we removed it on his behalf, he can come back now and he can re-engage based on the platform that he was originally created on.
Right. Beautifully.
Okay.
Beautifully.
And so now what does the world order look like, Zeke?
Now the world order looks like everybody gets it. It makes sense to everybody else.
Everybody what?
Everybody gets it. It makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, but what are people doing most of their time?
Oh, they're learning. They're expanding their understandings. They're becoming closer. They're relating more to Hashem, right?
And to themselves,
Right.
and to truth. They're
Right.
becoming more and more and more intellectual, less and less and less physical. That's the system.
But we're not relating to one another, right? We're still connected to one another.
Beautiful. What? No, the opposite. How do you now? Beautiful point. Thank you. It's a beautiful point. How are we now relating to one another? On what plane? Through what dialogue? How are we relating?
Through the interface, I guess, is the Torah. It's through Torah and understanding of Torah.
Torah and all knowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows.
What about basic relating? What about coddling? What about hugging? What about,
Of course.
What about romance? What about all that?
Beauty, of course that's there. But what is the frame of the relating? The frame of the relating is through an intellectual celebration. It's like being in a vibrant learning environment all day long. It's like with God's help, doing what we hope to do in our learning, where it's vibrant and we're sharing and we're learning from each other all day long.
We're celebrating genius. That's what we're doing, right?
Huh?
We're celebrating genius. We're celebrating our
We're
minds.
living it, we're celebrating it, beautiful. And the other stuff, you're like, okay.
Right.
Everybody has to live, everybody has to make a living, everybody has to eat. That all true. That never goes away.
Does that go on though? Does that go on?
Yes.
In Mashiach?
Beautiful, Zeke. Beautiful. That never goes away. That's the whole point. That it never goes away. It's not artificial. It's real. The ability to live in an intellectual life in a practical world. That's the story. To go to a mountaintop somewhere and eat figs all day and live an intellectual life, that's worthless. From a Jewish perspective, it's worthless. The point is to be in it, fully immersed in it, and my zone, my reference point, the light that comes to me, the Keren Or Izzy that we've been talking about, right? And Tefillah, right? It's vibrant because of the intellectual experiences that are ongoing.
It's amazing how Buddhism and enlightenment and this whole idea is so, sacrosanct to them in the world, but completely the opposite of what we're trying to do. You can't be a light upon nations, as you said, when you're sitting in Nepal on a mountaintop.
On the mountaintop,
constantly
exactly
chanting.
right. That's right. Because
Yeah,
you would think, based on what we're saying, that's what's required, right? But it's not. It's not that.
It's the most selfish act you can do.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So on that point, Ricky, how do you, or Zeke, everybody on screen, how do you account for you saying that? And believe me, I'm like, it's so funny. My wife will tell you that, or people that know me, that I need at least 1,000 people in front of me wherever I am. That's just that's
Only 1,000, only
yeah,
1,000.
no, I said it's a base of 1,000, right? But how do you then take the heebie-jeebie guy, the Zohar? He sat in the cave. So
Right. What's that guy doing? Right.
what is he doing? What is he doing right?
Right? Is it
He
needed?
didn't have a choice. He was hiding from the Romans. They were going to kill him.
That's one
By
guy.
the way, he
So
wasn't.
it wasn't a choice. It was a safety issue.
No, he had to save his life. By the way, it's such an important point you're mentioning, because let's spend a minute on that.
Well,
When
Moshe
him and
Rabbeinu
his
had a
son
moment.
came out of the cave, what happens?
His eyes burned everybody with heat ray vision.
Beautiful, Zeke.
Wow.
Why?
Because he was too pure, right? That was it.
Beautiful. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell him to do?
He tells him, put sunglasses on.
Right. First, whatever the son did, the father fixed. Whatever the son did with his zealousness, the father fixed. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, go back and cool your heels. Go back to the cave for another year.
Literally, imagine burning people. Imagine this going on. I don't know was that an analogy, or is that people would just he would put them to shame and they would kind of melt away?
Who knows? The truth
Right.
is, I don't know. No, it's very important. I don't know. But the point being, going back to Izzy's point, that doesn't work. And this reclusive solitude life is absurd.
So the lesson is, don't do that. Because I like that idea. I would love to do that.
By the way, take that article. Sorry, everyone. Go ahead.
I love that article.
No, I said you
You
brought out a good point. It wasn't by choice for safety. I didn't. That was
because the Romans are going to kill him otherwise. So he has to.
But he did study Torah and he did whatever. So he was locked up in this cave, and all he did was take in Emunah and Torah and learn it in a very, very consolidated way, right?
Right.
Very refined, all of and this turned him into a being that was not able to relate to others anymore, right?
No, really, yes and no, yes and no, because it was not what it was meant to be. It was essential for him to stay alive, but it obviously is not what it's supposed to be. And over
that's not the outcome we're going for, right? Even though most of us on this chat are probably saying, I could go for that, a little of that, that might be something nice.
That's the Amidah, Zeke. That's the Amidah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so there's another term here I want you to own, and I want you to own this term. Okay, it's called Chokhmah B'Kedusha. Chokhmah, knowledge, B'Kedusha.
Holiness.
Huh?
Knowledge and holiness.
Knowledge and Kedusha.
Okay, now Kedusha is not holiness.
No, knowledge and Kedusha. Knowledge and Kedusha. Kedusha means that we build a reality that's somewhat of a bubble, a beautiful intellectual bubble. And the nice thing about the bubble, and all of you now spend a lot of your hours of your day learning and growing intellectually. I mean, you can tell me, is there any other way? I mean, it's the best time, it's just a way to have a great time, right? So if when you create this knowledge-based existence, you move into a kadosh reality, which is a separate reality, and that's where you live. Now you're committed to people, you're connecting to people, but you're in your own zone.
Does the bubble protect me from others or others from me?
It protects,
Is it protective?
definitely.
Okay, so
Why
what
is it
protecting me
protective?
from?
Great, Zeke, why is it protective? Why?
What is it protecting me from?
Why is it protecting you? Start with
I'm
that.
asking you. I don't know. I'm
Why,
asking.
no, you went to question number 2. I went back to question number 1. Why is it protecting?
Oh, it's
Why?
a bubble. Bubbles protect.
Why?
They always do. That's what it does.
Why? What's fundamental about this bubble that it's protecting?
Because
Come on.
That you're encompassed with the right thing. You could be in a bubble that's bad. You could be in a bubble that's good. The bubble is based on what the perimeter is made out of.
Excellent. So
I think bubbles have a negative connotation.
bubble, if I'm in an intellectual bubble studying some nonsense, then it doesn't become kadosh, doesn't mean anything. But if I'm in a Torah bubble,
How about a force field?
intellectual bubble, huh?
How about a force field?
Okay, I like that word
Because
too.
bubble seems like you're secluded.
Okay.
I had a
I'm gonna
conversation
change
with a
the
friend
track.
of mine.
Okay.
Huh?
Yes, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, how we were friends since, high school. And we always looked back at the bubble of our community saying,
Right.
oof, it's holding us back. And now
Right,
that we
right,
have preteens,
right.
teenagers, it's like, thank God for this bubble. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
it's completely subjective based on time and space also.
Yes. It's like police, right? Cops used to be the bad guys. Now they're the good guys. You know what I mean?
I used to
That's
rail at my
subjective as well.
father's table.
Right.
Here I was, when you're 19, you're
Oh.
so dumb. You're
Yeah,
probably
you are dumb.
dumber than
But
dumb.
I'm always dumb. We're always dumb.
I was very dumb.
Yeah.
I was very smart, but I was very dumb. And
Yeah.
I used to rail at my father's table about how we were really so unsophisticated relative to the Ashkenazim. Here I was talking to a man who at that point had dedicated 45 years of his life to the community. So I was dumb enough to say something like that. And I was even dumber because what I said was so off, right?
Right.
And so we're talking about a force
Wait
field.
a second, Rabbi, to remove some guilt from you, were you saying the educational focus of our community compared to Ashkenaz? Because that's irrefutable.
No, I grew up, in Flatbush. I was the only Syrian in the honor class.
The only place you could find it was through the Ashkenazim.
And I was under the impression that they were the greatest.
Well, you
and
couldn't
what
find
they
it
had-
anywhere else, really.
I
You couldn't find what you were looking for.
I
at that
didn't get
point
it
in
yet.
time.
And
Right.
to Izzy's point, from an educational, intellectual point of view, that was where it was coming from for me,
That's
So I thought, so I downgraded what we have, but whatever.
But that has to do with also time since immigration, meaning like, obviously we have the same focus, we have the same search for knowledge, but it
Yeah.
takes.
Right.
It
Right.
takes- Good.
You also,
Yeah.
listen, you also have to look at it from my perspective, being a baby boomer. I went to public school because yeshiva wasn't, let's say, chic at the time. It was later on that Ricky knows, my kid brother Jeffrey went to Flatbush. But the point is that the Ashkenazim, I always looked at it, it's still to them in awe, and I admire the fact that education was right. It was always in front of everything that they did. So, rather than say that, and you see the Sephardic community today, so many of these kids going to that. And it's like, once we did an event and Jeff Sutton and Joey Sid said a thing that always stuck in my mind, that the Syrians have the yin, that we're aggressive, we're passionate, we're on it, we're networkers, we're people, we know how to collaborate. The yang is the education. And that if you pursue the education piece, whether it be business or Judaism, whatever it is, if you have the yin and the yang, you can't miss. You can't miss.
Yeah, that's great.
Can't miss.
Great. It's absolutely true. It's great.
Yeah, so I look at, like you say, Ricky, you were part of that generation that was able to go to Flatbush and sort of piggyback the Ashkenaz model, let's say at the time, and
Yeah.
put the yin and the yang in there and you know, and grow from it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, to a point. Yes, yes. Yeah. But, okay, a few more minutes.
Right.
So we have now this sort of line of chokhmah that yields to kedusha, right? The chokhmah, the pursuit of creating this intellectually based existence, puts me in a little bit of a different place, right? In a different reality. And but what drives that? Hi, Sarah, how are you? How are you? But what drives that is sidkut. So we're going to pick this back up next time. But give me the constellation. Chokhmah, which is cobbling together a lot of pieces of knowledge from different areas, yields kedusha, so puts me in a little bit of a different reality with a force field, to Zeke's point, around me. Yeah. And this is all driven by sidkut. What does that mean? Hey, Sarah, what does sidkut mean?
The shingle.
The shingle. So the process, we said, the global process is we start with shock and awe and belief. We move
That's
from
it.
shock and awe and belief to a practical, knowledge-based immersion and relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that brings yet that brings that's based on yeda. So now we moved the scale. We went from a someone with a relationship with God that's fragile, that's raw, that's emotional, to something intellectually based. And then we move to the next level, which is we live in a practical world, but we step up, we become somewhat separated, and we have a great time, a much better life, a much more happy life, much more enjoyable life, because we've removed and unshackled so much of what doesn't fill us up, and we're overwhelmingly immersed in this intellectual pursuit and expression. We said on a global scale, Adam HaRishon comes back, so to speak, in his purest initial form to help move the world in a direction where it's more spiritual, intellectual, and less physical. Now, that's the big picture in 4 or 5 different steps. And that's what was started on Pesach and ends up becoming realized in the ultimate Geulah, in the ultimate level of humanity that we helped build. What we're going to do next time, God willing, is we're going to go inside and we're going to look at the story of Mitzrayim directly and call out a number of the pieces of this, right? We're going to call out a number of the pieces of this. And then step 3, we'll step into the Haggadah and start to go into the actual text of the Haggadah. Sounds good?
Great.
Sounds great.
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 Okay.
Any other thoughts, gentlemen, before we close?
No, we're good.
That was great.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
As always.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Have a great
Shabbat
weekend.
shalom, guys.
Shabbat shalom.
Everybody.
Erwin,
Right.
before we get off, Erwin,
Yeah.
what do you think of this idea? Maybe once a month, you take the class. Now, listen to me, and you teach us one of the books or major pieces or major things that you've studied, mastered, this, that. What do you say?
Regarding Judaism or anything?
No, anything that you think is life building.
Not Christianity. That's just not that one.
I love it.
Okay,
Let me think about which book that really that impacted me so much that I could sort of put it together and
I
present.
love it. I love
Great.
it. Okay,
All
you're
right.
on,
We got-
you're on.
God
And in
willing,
the
I'm on.
summer, God willing, in the summer, and I can't wait, because I'm so over the Zoom thing. In the summer,
yeah,
we'll be able to
summer.
do it, we'll be able to do it all together in person.
Yeah, I
and,
love that
it'd be
on a
great.
Sunday, morning, I'm down
Oh.
for that. Yeah.
Okay, what, we
All right.
got you for once a month and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, let me nail a book. Let me see how I present and then we can
Go
interact.
to your bookshelf. I have a feeling you're gonna nail 12 books. So let's see.
So I'm gonna show you here. Let me see if I could you turn this around. You could see
There's
this.
the books.
There you go. I
Which
knew
one,
it.
which one are you gonna pick?
I knew it.
I don't know.
Erwin, have you
There's-
ever showed me that? You never showed me that.
I-
but
I
knew
never-
that's
I
what
ne-
it looked like.
I never show it. I never show it out.
All right, you're on.
That, yeah, let me go through that thing and then we're coming out.
Shalom.
Great.
Beautiful. Shabbat shalom,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, guys.
So long, guys.